Disney World has replaced some truly beloved classics over the years, but not every change has been for the better. In this challenge, I'm putting 15 old Disney World favorites head-to-head with what took their place to see which version really wins. From legendary rides to iconic resort details and nighttime spectaculars, it is time to decide which replacements were upgrades and which ones were definite downgrades. Matchup number 1. The Great Movie Ride versus Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. At the end of Hollywood Boulevard, the Great Movie Ride doubled as the beating heart of Disney MGM Studios. Opening with the park in 1989, it was built as a celebration of classic Hollywood rather than a single franchise. Guests rolled through scenes from films like Casablanca, Alien, and The Wizard of Oz, with live performers adding real showmanship. It closed in 2017 as Hollywood Studios moved away from its old Hollywood identity and toward bigger Disney-owned brands. Disney replaced it with Runaway Railway because they wanted Mickey's first ride-through attraction at Walt Disney World and a major family draw inside the Chinese theater. Most guests embraced it quickly, even while many longtime fans hated losing one of the park's defining originals. The replacement drops riders into a zany cartoon short with trackless vehicles, playful effects, and non-stop visual energy. It is bright, clever, and easy to love, which is exactly why it works so well for families. Runaway Railway is fun, but replacing the iconic cinematic centerpiece of a park focused on Hollywood with a lighter cartoon ride still feels like a downgrade. Number 2. Horizons versus Mission Space. In Future World, Horizons stood as one of Epcot Center's boldest and most optimistic visions of tomorrow. It opened in 1983 as a spiritual successor to Carousel of Progress, but with Epcot's bigger scale and wilder imagination. Riders toured undersea cities, desert farms, and space colonies before choosing their own trip home at the finale. By the late 1990s, sponsor issues, aging systems, and building problems made the beloved Pavilion difficult to keep running. Mission Space moved in because Disney wanted a modern thrill ride for Epcot. Its debut brought huge curiosity, but the ride's intensity also made it one of Epcot's most divisive headliners. The experience sends crews through training, launch, and a high-pressure mission to Mars with plenty of shaking and sensory overload. For guests who love intense thrills, it absolutely delivers something Horizons never even tried to be. Mission Space has its fans, but Horizons was an amazing ride that captured the spirit of Epcot perfectly, so this still lands as a downgrade. Number 3. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride versus the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride brought a chaotic little burst of mayhem to Fantasyland that never felt like anything else in the park. The 1971 attraction carried over the spirit of Disneyland's version and even gave Magic Kingdom 2 separate ride tracks. Guests tore through Toad Hall, faced judgment, and somehow ended up in hell. It had a controversial closure in 1998 when Disney made room for a Pooh attraction tied to a much bigger and easier-to-market character. Winnie the Pooh was the obvious replacement because the books, movies, and merchandise were hugely popular with young families. Kids took to it easily, but the backlash from Mr. Toad fans was strong enough that Disney later tucked in a tribute nearby. The new ride floats through the 100-acre wood in honey pots, with scenes built around Pooh, Tigger, and the Heffalumps. It is sweet, colorful, and perfectly pleasant, which is also why it feels less distinct. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is just an underwhelming ride and the one you go on when the line is too long at 7 Dwarfs, so this is a downgrade. Number 4. Universe of Energy versus Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. In Future World East, Universe of Energy filled one of Epcot's biggest buildings with a topic Disney somehow made entertaining. The Pavilion opened with Epcot in 1982 and later became Ellen's Energy Adventure, but its mission was always teaching guests about how energy powers the world. Guests watched a giant pre-show, traveled back to the age of dinosaurs in massive moving theaters, and experienced Epcot at a truly enormous scale. It closed because the Pavilion had grown dated, the subject had lost its draw, and Disney wanted something with much bigger pulling power. Cosmic Rewind moved in to turn a struggling corner of Epcot into a true headliner while using Marvel's cosmic side in a park-friendly way. Reception was strong almost immediately, with many fans calling it one of the best new Disney attractions in years. The coaster launches backward, rotates to frame the action, and combines giant show scenes with a rotating soundtrack of pop songs. Even guests who question the theme usually step off, admitting the ride itself is an absolute blast. Guardians may fit awkwardly in old-school Future World, but as a ride-for-ride swap, this is a definite upgrade. Number 5. Polynesian Lobby Waterfall versus Modern Open Concept Lobby. Inside the Great Ceremonial House, the Polynesian's indoor waterfall turned the lobby into an attraction all by itself. From the resort's early years, that rushing water, dense greenery, and tropical atmosphere helped sell the fantasy before guests even reached their rooms. It was not a ride, but it absolutely shaped the experience by adding movement, sound, and a sense of escape. The waterfall vanished during the 2014 refurbishment, when Disney opened up the space for cleaner sightlines and smoother guest flow. Disney went with a more modern vibe to give the resort a brighter, more flexible arrival space that felt updated and easier to navigate. Some guests liked the calmer look, but plenty of longtime fans felt the remodel stripped away the resort's signature wow factor. Today's lobby is airy and comfortable, with a more understated design that puts function ahead of theatrical atmosphere. It works perfectly well as a hotel lobby, but it no longer transports you in the same instant way. The new lobby is perfectly nice, but the waterfall gave the lobby such an amazing vibe with its unique sights, smells, and sounds, so this is a downgrade. Number 6. Original Journey into Imagination versus Journey into Imagination with Figment. In Future World West, the original Journey into Imagination was Epcot at its most creative, playful, and wonderfully weird. Opening in 1983, it introduced Dreamfinder and Figment, and quickly became one of the park's signature attractions. Guests drifted through the Dreamport, watched ideas become giant set pieces, and finished in the legendary upstairs Imageworks. It was gutted in 1998 after Disney badly underestimated how much guests loved the original. After the unpopular 1999 redo crashed with fans, Disney brought Figment back in 2002 to soften the blow and salvage the Pavilion. The current version landed better than Journey into Your Imagination, but it has never escaped the shadow of what came before. Today's ride follows Dr. Nigel Channing and Figment through sensory labs where the dragon keeps wrecking the experiment. It has charm, a lovable mascot, and a great song, but the scale and wonder are nowhere near the original. Bringing Figment back helped, yet this is still a downgrade from one of Epcot's all-time masterpiece. It's time to bring the Dreamfinder back. Number 7. Streets of America and the Studio Backlot Tour versus Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land. In Disney MGM Studios, the Streets of America and Backlot Tour sold the fantasy that you were walking through a working studio. Those spaces changed over time, but they still carried the park's original behind-the-scenes identity long after actual production slowed down. Guests could wander city facades, catch the Osborne lights at Christmas, and board a tram for practical effects in Catastrophe Canyon. They closed because Disney decided the park needed fully immersive lands more than aging production-themed spaces. Star Wars and Toy Story were obvious choices to turn that footprint into a franchise-powered expansion. The response was strong overall, with Galaxy's Edge praised for its detail and Toy Story Land becoming a reliable family draw. Now, the area offers everything from piloting the Millennium Falcon and escaping the First Order to racing around on Slinky Dog Dash. It is a very different kind of park making, but it gave Hollywood studios scale, energy, and demand. The old spaces no longer matched. I loved the Streets and Backlot Tour, but Rise of the Resistance and Slinky Dog Dash are incredible rides making. This one is an upgrade. Quick interruption before we go deeper into this rundown. If this video is bringing back fond memories, please hit like and subscribe because I have a ton of Disney World nostalgia content in the works. Number 8. Mickey's Toontown Fair versus Storybook Circus. At the back of Fantasyland, Mickey's Toontown Fair leaned into bright colors, character houses, and a deliberately goofy county fair vibe. The land had roots in Birthdayland and Starland before becoming Toontown in the mid-1990s to tie it more directly to Mickey and Friends. Guests could tour Mickey and Minnie's homes, ride the Barnstormer, and explore a land that felt busy, odd, and unmistakably its own. It closed to clear space for New Fantasyland, which meant a much bigger long-term expansion took priority over a worn but popular kids' area. The area was turned into Storybook Circus to give Dumbo a new home and keep the Barnstormer. It was received well enough, especially by parents who appreciated the doubled Dumbo capacity and indoor play queue. Its circus tents, Casey Jr. splash zone, and carnival colors make it pleasant, but the land feels more like a connector than a destination. Compared with Toontown, it has less character-specific charm and far less of that anything-goes energy. Toontown could be cheesy, but it was more memorable than Storybook Circus, so this feels like a downgrade. Number 9. World of Motion versus Test Track. In Future World of Motion mixed Disney humor with transportation history in a way only classic Epcot really could. The 1982 attraction, sponsored by General Motors, used an Omni-Mover system to trace travel from foot power to futuristic mobility. It was playful, packed with gags, and capped with a glimpse at how transportation might keep evolving. It closed in 1996 when GM wanted something flashier and more contemporary that showcased vehicle testing instead of travel history. Test Track was the answer, giving Epcot a high-speed thrill ride while still tying the Pavilion to real-world automotive engineering. Its opening was rocky thanks to delays and technical headaches, but it eventually settled in as one of the park's most popular rides. Guests design a virtual car, then race through handling, braking, and weather tests before hitting that famous outdoor speed loop. Even after the 2012 redesign split opinion, the attraction remained a modern Epcot staple with serious repeat value. This is the rare case of an amazing classic ride being replaced with a new classic that is very popular, so this one is basically a push. Number 10. Maelstrom versus Frozen Ever After. In the Norway Pavilion, Maelstrom mixed travelogue, folklore, and pure Epcot oddness into one of World Showcase's most distinctive rides. The 1988 boat ride was built to spotlight Norwegian culture, but it never resisted throwing in trolls and a little theme park weirdness. Guests floated past villages, oil platforms, and that unforgettable backward drop before exiting to a film about Norway. It closed in 2014 after Frozen became a global phenomenon, and Disney saw a chance to give World Showcase a massive family draw. The location was chosen because Arendelle already borrowed heavily from Scandinavia, and the film's popularity practically guaranteed demand. Many fans mourned Maelstrom, but the new ride was welcomed by a huge audience that simply wanted more Elsa and Anna in the parks. The replacement keeps the boat system and reverse section while filling the scenes with animatronics, songs, and moments from the movie. It is still short, but the ride is warmer, more visually polished, and more emotionally engaging for most guests. Maelstrom had charm, yet Frozen Ever After has been one of the most popular Epcot rides since the day it opened, so I call this an upgrade. Number 11. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea versus Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. In Fantasyland's Lagoon, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea gave Magic Kingdom one of its most atmospheric early ticket rides. Inspired by Disney's 1954 film, the 1971 submarine adventure sent guests below the surface in Nautilus-style vessels. Riders peered through portholes at sea life, lost ruins, and giant creatures in an adventurous experience. It closed in 1994 because it was expensive to maintain, slow to load, and increasingly hard to operate efficiently. New Fantasyland later brought Seven Dwarfs Mine Train as a family coaster with broad appeal and strong character ties. Guests responded well almost immediately, creating some of the longest wait times in the park. The attraction blends swinging coaster cars, smooth family thrills, and some of the best audio animatronics in modern Fantasyland. It may be brief, but it is polished, reliable, and a much bigger draw for today's crowd than the old submarines ever were. 20,000 Leagues didn't age as well as many of the other original rides, and had a massive footprint in the park. Seven Dwarfs has become one of the most popular rides in the Magic Kingdom, so this is an upgrade. Number 12. El Rio del Tiempo versus Gran Fiesta Tour starring the three Caballeros. Inside the Mexico Pavilion, El Rio del Tiempo offered a slow and charming trip through Mexican art, music, and daily life. It was part of Epcot's 1982 lineup and fit the original World Showcase idea of using rides to introduce real countries. The boat ride wound through market scenes and festival energy before arriving at a sweeping nighttime celebration. It closed in 2007 when Disney decided the Pavilion could use a refresh and a more recognizable Disney hook. The three Caballeros were added to let Disney add characters without completely abandoning the ride's Mexico setting. Fans were cautious at first, but the overlay played much better than most Epcot IP editions because it stayed light on its feet. Gran Fiesta still cruises through the pavilion's beautiful interior, now framed as Donald's frantic search across Mexico. It is not a drastic redo, yet the overlay adds humor and momentum without breaking the spirit of the space. This is one of the rare Disney Parks IP injections that really works, so I give it an upgrade. Number 13. Snow White's Scary Adventures vs. Princess Fairytale Hall. In Fantasyland, Snow White's Scary Adventures delivered a surprisingly intense dark ride version of Disney's first animated feature. The opening day attraction scared generations of kids with its forest scenes, looming queen, and a witch who always seemed a little too close. Later updates softened parts of the ride and finally added Snow White herself, but it never lost that classic Storybook feel. It closed in 2012 as New Fantasyland made space for expanded princess offerings and a more meet-and-greet-driven use of the building. Princess Fairytale Hall was chosen because Magic Kingdom needed a permanent, high-capacity home for Cinderella and visiting royalty. Most guests saw it as a polished character location, but fans of classic attractions hated losing another original Fantasyland dark ride. The experience now is all about elegant queue spaces, royal set dressing, and face-to-face time with the princesses. It serves its purpose well, but a meet and greet simply cannot replace the movement and storytelling of a real ride. They replaced a classic Disney World dark ride with a cookie-cutter meet and greet. Big downgrade. Number 14. Wonders of Life Pavilion vs. Festival Flex Space. In Future World East, Wonders of Life turned a golden dome into Epcot's playground for health, science, and the human body. Opening in 1989, the pavilion mixed comedy, thrills, and hands-on exhibits in a way that made learning feel energetic instead of clinical. Guests could shrink down for body wars, laugh through Cranium Command, and roam interactive spaces that rewarded curiosity. It faded out after sponsor support dried up and the pavilion became too expensive to refresh at the level Epcot needed. Disney later leaned on the space as a festival and event venue because that was easier than funding a full permanent replacement. The announced Play Pavilion sounded promising on paper, with plans for an interactive and game-like experience tied to Disney characters. Fans liked the idea of giving the dome a purpose again, but enthusiasm cooled as the project stalled and the building kept sitting mostly dormant. Right now, the replacement experience is basically the absence of one, aside from occasional seasonal or corporate use inside the shell. When a pillar Epcot pavilion goes from Cranium Command to mostly nothing, that is an easy downgrade. Number 15. Wishes vs. Happily Ever After. Over Magic Kingdom, Wishes turned the nightly fireworks into a story about hope, heart, and believing in your own dreams. Debuting in 2003, it became a fan favorite thanks to Jiminy Cricket, a soaring soundtrack, and a simple emotional through line. The show mixed fireworks, narration, and character moments in a way that felt grand without losing its personal touch. It ended in 2017 when Disney wanted a more projection-heavy spectacular built for newer technology and a broader mix of films. Its replacement, Happily Ever After, modernized the nighttime formula with massive mapping, more characters, and a bigger sensory punch. The reception was overwhelmingly strong, and its return after Enchantment showed just how deeply it connected with guests. The show floods the park with projections, lasers, fireworks, and a powerhouse soundtrack built around contemporary Disney favorites. It is absolutely spectacular on a technical level, and often feels like the fullest version of the Castle Show era. Happily Ever After is bigger and more advanced, but Wishes told an amazing story, so for me, this is a slight downgrade. Some replacements absolutely delivered, but a lot of these matchups are a reminder that newer does not always mean better at Disney World. Let me know which Disney World replacement you think was the biggest upgrade, and which closure still hurts the most. If you enjoy Disney World past and present, please like this video and subscribe to my channel where I try to post new content weekly. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.